What's up, guys? Coach Lou, Major Gains. How you doing? I think this is going to help a lot of people. And the reason why I say that is because, I've been coaching long enough that you start to see the same trends and patterns with people, especially when they're trying to lose body fat. And it doesn't just mean people who are trying to drop body fat. This could probably go to a lot of other areas in people's lives where they want to do something, their actions just don't align with their goal for whatever reason. And this reason, there are a multitude of reasons, and I'm going to get into that, and I'm going to share with you, with permission, some of the responses that I've gotten in my group. A few days ago, this entire conversation sprang off of a conversation that I was having with one of my clients. Super, just like, she's motivated, but then not. And I think we can all relate to that at some point, to some degree, I should say. Wants to do this or wants these results, but the actions just aren't lining up. And, I'm not a psychologist, and I'm basically going off experience and from help, from other friends or, colleagues, and I just feel that some of the things that these people have shared very openly, I think will help somebody out there. So I posted in the group, I just asked this question. I said I would really love the entire group's input. So again, it was one of those, if you want to share, please do. If not, no harm, no foul. Said, certainly be respectful to each other and be sensitive, obviously. We all struggle in some form or fashion. We cope differently, but many of us turn to food and drinks. We put up a facade saying, don't care. And meanwhile we do, and we hate the choices we make. So I wanted to know, what do you do when you feel an emotional trigger coming on? And how do you stop yourself from sabotaging yourself? And man, some of the responses were just so vulnerable and just so open that I was like, I need to make this post. I need people to hear these responses. Probably the first one that I'm going to share was one of the last ones that I got, but man, it was freaking powerful. And, this person says, honestly, before I started this group and recommitted to focusing on my health and fitness, I would self-medicate with alcohol. Not to a bad extent, but I would have a couple glasses at night during the week to take the edge off. Something I never disclosed with this group so far, and I am actually very open about. My husband and I struggled with infertility for 10 years. I did infertility treatments for 6. I was bloated and a miserable mess. 100K in, 3 miscarriages, 17 pounds gained later, and a lot of emotional pain, and we still don't have a baby. Wow. For a few years, I used alcohol and food as my primary coping skill. But what I have realized is that while I don't have control over whether I can have a baby, too late now at 43, I do have control over how I deal with the grief. What I choose now is to deal with it by eating healthy and exercise, the only things that make me feel proud of myself the next day. So that was a long answer, but I want to convey that I used to use the wrong ways to deal with my emotions in the past. But now, if I get sad or want to engage in activities that are counterintuitive to my goals, I envision the way I want to look and feel. I have control over that, and that is empowering. I read that, and I was like, holy crap. A few days ago, I was complaining about the heat in the condo, and, you read this, and you're like, holy crap, that doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean? But we all cope with things differently, big and small. And I wanted to talk about that. I wanted to talk about, there are so many people out there that want to do this or do that. They want to look good for the summertime in their bikini, whatever that means to them. They want to be more athletic. They want to do sports. They want to do this. They want to do that. But as I've always preached in my coaching group, especially, is your actions like, you don't focus on your results. Don't focus on the outcome. When you focus on the outcome, that's when you tend to, you really lose sight of the progress that you're actually making, if you are making progress, if you're not self-sabotaging. Because focusing on what's not there, focusing on what you haven't reached yet, that's going to be what ends up making you say, you know what, screw it. And then you're like, oh, I don't care. But then like 2 days later, 3 days later, like, wow, I really screwed up. I really just set myself back. So what I want to say in this regard is, I think the biggest thing that sticks out to me is, you know, she wants to say, you know, I used to deal with my emotions in the wrong way, but now I envision, you know, hindsight's 20/20, right? You know, we can look back at our past and be like, damn, I wish I did this differently. I wish I didn't eat this, or I wish I went to the gym, or I wish I handled this situation a lot better. I wish I prepared. Like, we can wish and want and yada, 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 but that's in the past, and that doesn't matter anymore. You know what I mean? So if you envision, if you can have a little bit more foresight and not, you know, and envision what's ahead, your hindsight, it would match your hindsight, because once you reach that area and move past it, you can be like, you know what, I handled that really well. In hindsight, I handled it well because I envisioned it a little bit further ahead, right? Another one of the responses, she wrote, you know, I was once in a all-female boot camp, which wasn't the greatest, ... But the one thing stuck to her was what her trainer said to her, which was, you know, what you need in the cabinet, refrigerator, etc. What you need is not in the cabinet, refrigerator, etc. Meaning, you know, whenever an emotion takes toll, whenever your emotions are running high, you know, you're really stressed, kids are stressing you out, work stressing you out, boss is stressing you out, your financial situation stressing you out, whatever's stressing you out at that moment in time, you will look for that thing that makes you feel good. And not to say that food shouldn't make you feel good or it shouldn't taste good, whatever the case may be, but it's how you view it. It's how you see it, right? So if you know that your goal is to drop body fat, but you've also hit this area in your life that's really just really crappy, for lack of a better term, or you know, like, that's what you know, you can't hide and run from the issue. And you can't also look to drown your sorrows and cope using food, right? That's how you end up building your unhealthy relationship with food. And I can honestly say, not that I've ever personally had an unhealthy relationship with food, but the women that I and even men that I've coached in the past and I'm still coaching, this is coming from them. This is how they've experienced it. And I think it's a really good share for me to help them, because now I want to pry more and see how, you know, how can we make your situation better. And I think it's really simple at the end of the day. It's a lot easier said than done, but the theory behind it is, you know, focus on everything you can control versus everything you can't control. I remember a really good lesson. I must have been about 22, 23, and one of my best friends was like, I was going through it with an ex-girlfriend of mine back then, and everything seems to be way more magnified than it really needed to be. And I remember him literally telling me, he was like, bro, why do you care so much? Like, why do you focus on the things that you can't control? You can't control how a person treats you. You can't control some of these external factors, but you can control how you respond to these things. And that always stuck with me because although I'm 30 now and I've been a work in progress, that's one of the biggest lessons that I've actually learned in regards to that. Just, man, I can cope with a lot of ways. There's a lot of things that I can do right now that are going to be unhealthy, that can make me feel awful, terrible, that can hurt somebody else. Like, no. Worry about your actions and try not to let your emotions take control of your actions, right? Oh man. This one was another really just intense post. And I realized after reading these posts that, wow, it's empowering what you can do with your training and nutrition, and actually how you can really make that it can really empower you to do better in other areas of your life. So this one person says, "Oh wow, thank you so much for opening up. I feel that it's only fair I open up also, as both of you have done. I don't talk publicly about it, maybe because I'm ashamed," which is a whole, and I'm going off real quick, it's a whole nother thing, shame in this group in life. Shame just has no place. We all make decisions, we all have screwed up in our lives, but we shouldn't be shamed about it. You know what I mean? You shouldn't be shaming somebody for the choices that they make. Can somebody learn a different way, a better way? Sure, but that's humanity, right? That's something I've learned. I can't pass judgments on people, and I wouldn't expect people to pass judgments on me simply because of a choice or whatever, right? We're all human. We're all flawed. But this person says she's been ashamed, and I don't know. But I have been seeing a therapist for a year. I've had a lot of hardships over the years, being bullied at work, my best friend dying of cancer, not being able to get into relationships with a guy that actually treats me well, having extended family drama. And so I've been slipping into depression. I medicated with alcohol and actually drank a lot. And that's why I moved home, because I hated living by myself. I used to cry every day. I'm taking antidepressants and had thought about suicide. I recently got really bad online bullying with someone sending me anonymous emails. I'm already a certified PT, and I'm working towards more education. I'm also reading a ton of really good self-development books because I'm trying so freaking hard to change my outlook. I guess we can throw in a little happy note. Since I started with Coach Louie, I've noticed a huge shift in my mental state. I'm feeling a lot happier about myself. This is more of a mental change than physical. My end goal is to compete on stage, lol. It's a personal goal to see if I can do it. Thanks for listening and reading, and thank you all for your support the past few weeks. And I actually felt really great that she shared it with me, because she goes, I would never post this on Facebook. And while there are plenty of other responses that I got from my clients, I wanted to touch on those because those were probably some of the most impactful in there. Not to say that the other ones weren't, but I think, those were the most extreme, right? Other people were self-sabotaging because they were moving across the country and just didn't know how to handle the change. But I think if we're really going to be honest, self-sabotage it's obviously a real thing, and when you let your emotions take over, and you let your head really, and not thinking properly, but you're just letting yourself just go crazy, I guess, for lack of a better term. You start making poor choices, poor decisions, instead of really thinking logically, rationally, and just saying, wow, you know what, let me take a step back. Let me step outside this photo. Let me step outside of the path that I'm on right now, and let me just look at the totality of this picture. Everybody knows this saying, don't miss the forest for the trees. We can look, once we look at the entire thing, we can say like, wow, this is actually a lot smaller than I thought. And I mean, for the really serious issues, depression, suicide thoughts or attempts, I mean, of course, it's great that you see somebody about that, talk to somebody about that. But even when it comes to the more trivial things like training and eating and tracking your food and making better decisions on the weekend and not, downing a bottle of wine instead of just having a glass. Like, we all need a support network. We all need accountability. We all need to know at the end of the day that we're cared for, that we care about others, that our situation, no matter how good or how bad, it doesn't stay like that forever. And I think that if we can see that, we're going to be, each individual will be a lot better for it. And there is a book that one of my other clients posted, because she's in therapy as well, because she had a binge eating disorder. And one of the books that she recommended, and she posted a few screenshots of, and I actually really liked, and I'm gonna start recommending it, especially to clients who really have a hard time with self-sabotage. And I'm sure you've heard of it, but it's called Life is Hard, Food is Easy. And what's so ironic about that is because I say that all the time. I'm like, life is hard, but your training and nutrition is easy. Don't make it more complex. And lo and behold, it's the title of a book, but I didn't write it. I should have. Intellectual property. Damn. But and my other client says, I asked myself a few questions to understand the emotions. And I think the whole aspect of self-sabotage really comes down to self-awareness. Knowing your triggers, why do you feel that way, not being disconnected from yourself emotionally, and learning how to cope with that situation, but in a healthy manner. Because we all grieve. If somebody upsets us, we're going to grieve in some manner. If somebody, if we go through, and listen, we're not going to be perfect. Nobody's perfect. I'm sure I've been upset and downed a whole bag of jelly beans. I'm pretty sure the jelly beans tasted and made me feel fantastic. Did I love how I felt the next day? No, not really. But you got to move on. You know what I mean? You can't dwell on this anymore. You can't sit and think about what you shouldn't have done, because now you're just condemning yourself at that point. And there's no, you shouldn't be condemning yourself. There's no condemnation whenever you're really trying to do the right thing and the good thing. It's just knowing that, like, look, you screwed up. It is what it is. It's in the past. Call it a day. So this ended up being a much longer video than I thought it'd be, but it would have been a much longer blog post, and I don't think I could have written that much. So I just wanted to share these responses with you, and just hopefully help you know that there are people just like you out there that are struggling a little and struggling a whole lot. But we all have our struggles, and we all grieve, and we all cope differently. But I think if we can learn to be a little more self-aware and see that change is possible in a way that can really benefit us and make us better, instead of bringing us back down to a much lower place, I think that almost every other area in life is going to get that much better. This is also coming from a 30-year-old, and I'm sure I've got another 10, 20 years of life lessons ahead of me, and 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, I'm God willing, but I know that this is going to help somebody, and I really appreciate my clients just being vulnerable and open, and letting the group know and letting me know their struggles, because these aren't, to be fair, sometimes these aren't even questions that are on the questionnaire, on the assessment questionnaire. Like, we want to get in depth, but sometimes for people to really open up, it takes a lot more than an assessment questionnaire to figure that out. And sometimes it really takes you being comfortable with somebody, and being comfortable with your group and your community, and knowing that you can open up without judgment. And I think it's freaking great, and I'm just so glad to have the people that I have in my group right now. So if you made it this far, thank you. I'm hoping to do more vlogs instead of blogs, because I just actually happen to like getting my thoughts across through speech more than typing, grammar, punctuation, all the fun stuff. So if you have any questions, let me know. You know where to find me: Facebook, Louis Guarino, Instagram at Louis_Guarino. And yeah, we here. Major gains, we out. Peace.